When Mark's estranged uncle passed away, the inheritance came as a surprise. A run-down farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, overgrown with weeds and surrounded by trees that leaned just a bit too close to the house. It stood on the edge of a forgotten county, the kind of place where phone signals died and neighbors were miles apart. Mark didn't remember ever meeting his uncle, but the property had fallen to him by bloodline, and curiosity alone drove him to check it out. The house creaked under its own weight as Mark stepped inside. Dust coated every surface like a second skin. The air smelled old like paper and rot, but beneath it all, something else lingered, faint and sour, hard to place. He explored slowly, the wooden floors groaning with every step. The furniture looked like it hadn't moved in decades, and the wallpaper peeled at the corners like curling fingers. In the kitchen, a trapdoor caught his eye. It sat flush with the floorboards, barely noticeable beneath an old rug. With effort, he pried it open, revealing a steep staircase that led into darkness. A single pole cord dangled from above. He yanked it, and a dim bulb flickered to life, casting trembling shadows against the concrete walls. The basement was colder than it should have been. Even for a house this old, boxes lined the walls, most of them empty or filled with old newspapers and rusted tools. But something near the far end drew him in. A section of the wall was different. Bricks stacked roughly and evenly, the mortar between them crumbling like dried clay. It looked like someone had sealed off a room. His heart beat faster as he ran his fingers over the bricks. Why would someone wall off part of a basement? Curiosity tugged harder than caution. Over the next few hours, he fetched tools from his car, pried at the edges, and slowly began to dismantle the wall. Brick by brick, a dark void revealed itself behind the barrier. It wasn't a room, not exactly. It was a narrow space, just wide enough for a person to stand in. Dust floated thick in the air, untouched by time. At the very center stood a tall mirror, its frame ornate with carved wooden patterns resembling vines and eyes. The glass was pristine, almost glowing in the faint light. Mark stepped closer. The reflection was perfect, too perfect. He noticed details that felt sharper than real life. His eyes seemed darker, deeper. For a moment, he thought the reflection smiled a second too long after he stopped. Shrugging off the unease, he backed away and resealed the basement for the night. But sleep didn't come easy. His dreams were fractured, full of dark corridors and mirrors stretching endlessly in every direction. He woke up feeling like he hadn't rested at all. The next day, he returned to the basement. The mirror stood exactly where he left it. This time, he stared into it longer. Behind his reflection, the room in the glass didn't look quite right. The shadows were off, and just for a heartbeat, he thought he saw someone standing behind him, someone who wasn't there when he turned around. He started recording his days in the house, documenting the strange things he felt. Sometimes, he would hear soft footsteps upstairs when he was in the basement. Other times, the mirror fogged up from the inside. Even though the room was cold and dry, he tried covering it with a sheet, but by morning, the cloth was always on the floor, crumpled like it had been thrown. As the days passed, the reflection began to change. It still looked like him, but the movements were slightly delayed, like watching a live feed with a lag. Then it started doing things he wasn't doing. While Mark stood still, the reflection would tilt its head, smile, or blink out of sync. One night, while reviewing his recordings, he noticed something horrifying. In one video, the reflection moved before he did, just a slight shift of the head, milliseconds too early, but it was enough. It wasn't a mirror anymore. It was watching. Mark tried to leave the house the next morning, but his car wouldn't start. The engine was fine, the battery new. Still, it sat lifeless, as if something refused to let him go. The phone had no signal. The charger sparked and died in his hand. By the fifth day, he stopped sleeping altogether. He kept the lights on and stayed away from the basement, but the mirror haunted every corner of his vision, even in reflections across windows and screens. He saw it always standing behind him, always smiling just a little too wide. His final decision came at nightfall. He was going to break the mirror, destroy it completely. Whatever was inside needed to be stopped. With a sledgehammer in hand, he descended into the basement one last time. He didn't expect what he saw. The mirror was gone from its place. It now leaned casually against the far wall, as if someone had moved it. The reflection was still there, except this time, it wasn't alone. Standing behind his mirrored self was a figure, tall and shadowy, with a face that flickered like a broken light. It raised its hand slowly, and in perfect sync. Mark's reflection did the same, except Mark hadn't moved.